All right, welcome to the Explainer. If you've ever felt like tuning a recurve bow is some kind of dark art, you are definitely in the right place. Today, we're going to break it all down. We're going to turn that complexity into a simple step-by-step science that you can actually master. Okay, so this quote from Archery Australia, it just hits the nail on the head, right? A perfectly tuned bow, it's not going to magically fix bad form, no way. But what it will do is let your good form shine. It's all about making your gear work with you, not against you. That's how you unlock your real potential. So at the very heart of all this tuning stuff is this really cool bit of physics called the archer's paradox. See, when you let go of that string, the arrow doesn't just fly straight. Nope. It actually flexes and kind of snakes its way around the riser of your bow. And our job isn't to stop that bend. That flex is totally essential. Our job is to control it, to tame it, so it happens the exact same way every single time. And this just shows that cycle perfectly. Now get this. This whole dance, from the moment you release to the arrow clearing the bow, it happens in just 21 thousandths of a second. I mean, that's insanely fast, right? Our job is to dial in that cycle so perfectly that the tail of the arrow just zips past the bow without touching a thing. That's the secret sauce to consistency.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to build your perfect tune from the ground up, step by step. We'll start with the foundation, the basic bow setup. Then we'll get into diagnostics with paper tuning and bare shafts. And finally, we'll confirm everything at a distance with the walkback test. Let's do this.
Okay, Section 1. Laying the foundation, the bow setup. You've heard it a million times, right? You can't build a house on a shaky foundation. Well, same deal here. You absolutely cannot tune a poorly set up bow. These first few steps, they're totally non-negotiable. They're the starting point for everything that comes next. First up, brace height. Think of this like setting the idle on an engine. It sets the baseline for how power gets delivered to that arrow. We're going to start in the upper half of whatever the manufacturer recommends. Why? Because it just sets you up for a more forgiving shot and better arrow clearance right out of the gate. Next, the nocking point. This little thing sets the vertical angle of your arrow right as it takes off. So, for our initial setup, we're going to set it just a tiny bit high, maybe about 3 to 5 millimeters above square. This gives us a great starting point and helps stop the arrow from kicking up or down off the string. And last but not least for our foundation, tiller. This is all about making sure your limbs are balanced. See, because your hand is below the true center of the bow, the top and bottom limbs don't work in exactly the same way, so we compensate for that. We set the top limb just a little bit weaker, which just means a slightly larger tiller measurement. This gets them to move in perfect harmony, and that gives you a nice, smooth, balanced shot. Okay, foundation is set. Now for our first diagnostic test, paper tuning. This is awesome. You shoot through a piece of paper from just a few feet away, and bam! You get an instant snapshot of your arrow's flight right as it leaves the bow. It's basically like an X-ray for your tune. So the paper is going to show you one of two main problems. If you get a vertical tear, that's a nocking point issue. If you get a horizontal tear, that points to a problem with your arrow spine or your center shot. And listen, here is the golden rule. You always, and I mean always, fix the vertical tear first. Don't touch anything else until that's sorted. All right, this table here, this is your cheat sheet if you're a right-handed archer. If you're a lefty, just flip the horizontal fixes. It's super simple. You just match the tear your arrow makes to the adjustment you need to make. So, if the tail end of the arrow tears high, your knock point's too high, so you lower it. If it tears left, your arrow's acting a little weak or soft, so you back off the bow weight just a bit. The key here, though, is one small change at a time. Then shoot again, and you just repeat that until you get that perfect, clean bullet hole. Okay, let's move on to a more refined test. By stripping the fletchings off an arrow, we're taking away its little rudders, right? We're taking away its ability to self-correct in the air. And a bare shaft, well, it's brutally honest. It's going to show you exactly what the bow is doing to the arrow at launch with no cover-ups. There's a reason so many experts call this the gold standard for tuning a recurve bow. It's simple, it's direct, and man, it is so effective at telling you the honest-to-goodness truth about your arrow flight.
So, the goal itself is pretty simple to say, but it definitely takes some precision to get it done. From about 15 or 20 meters out, you want that naked arrow, the one without fletchings, to land smack dab in the middle of your group of fletched arrows. When you can get that to happen, you just know your bow is launching that arrow perfectly straight.
And yeah, just like with paper tuning, we've got a simple little chart to follow. So for a righty, if that bare shaft hits to the left of your fletch group, your arrow spine is too stiff. But hey, pay attention here. The vertical adjustment is the opposite of paper tuning. If the bear shaft hits high, your knocking point is actually too low. Just follow the chart, make those tiny little adjustments, and before you know it, that bear shaft will be cozying up right in the middle of the group. All right, so our bow is pretty much dialed in at short range. But now we got to confirm that our tune holds up when we start backing away from the target. And that's where the walkback test comes in. It is the perfect final check to really fine-tune our setup for all distances. The process itself is really simple, really methodical. You're going to aim at the exact same spot on the target for every single shot. The only thing that changes is you take a few steps back after each arrow. What this does is create this vertical line of arrows down the target. And the shape of that line, it tells you everything. It's going to reveal any last little tuning issues with incredible clarity.
This is the dream. If your arrows fall in a perfectly straight, vertical line, you can do a little happy dance, because that means your bow is perfectly tuned, your arrows are going to fly true no matter how far away you are.
But what if your line of arrows kind of looks like this? For a right-handed archer, if that line starts to drift off to the left as you move back, don't worry, it's a super simple fix. It just means your plunger, that little springy button the arrow rests on, is a bit too stiff. It's pushing the arrow a little too hard. All you got to do is give it a few counterclockwise clicks to weaken that spring, and that should straighten the line right out. And you guessed it, if the arrows drift to the right, it's the opposite problem. The plunger spring is too soft. It's not giving the arrow enough support as it flexes. So just a few clicks clockwise to stiffen it up should bring that line right back to the center where it belongs.
So, you've done it. You've laid the foundation, you've diagnosed everything up close, and you've confirmed it at a distance. So, what's the last absolutely crucial step to make sure all this hard work doesn't just go to waste?
So let's recap the whole journey right here. We started with a solid foundation. Then we did our close-range diagnostics. After that, we confirmed everything at a distance. But please, don't forget that last step. Record everything. Write down your final brace sight, your tiller, your knock point measurement. This piece of paper or this note on your phone, it becomes your perfect baseline. It's the factory reset you can always come back to if something starts to feel a little bit off.
By going through this whole process, you've done way more than just turn a few screws. You've built a real, deep connection with your gear. You've turned it from just a tool into a true partner. So the only question left is, what are you and your bow going to achieve together? Thanks for watching.